Now, a lot of that is related to the US market. They're still seeing headwinds from compounding GLP-1, which seems to be the main driver that's affecting Wegovy growth. And there's a lack of visibility here. So all of that creates uncertainty for investors and also kind of questions around not only 2025 numbers, but the exit rate into 26. So there's concerns about, mid to long-term growth, given how concentrated or how reliant, Novo is on Wegovy for growth. The other headwind is competition to Ozempic, so that's the GLP-1 for diabetes, and that's another key growth driver for the company. Second piece of news, new CEO appointment. So they went with an internal candidate. I think the market was perhaps expecting them to go for an external candidate. So, perhaps a bit of disappointment there. But that said, he's been at the company. So this is Mike Doustdar. He's been at the company since '92. He's been heading up international operations since 2016. And over that time, we've seen international operations sales double to around $18 billion. So, he's an internal hire. He's familiar with the company culture. I think it's a bit too early to write him off before he's even started. Now, his focus is going to be on gaining ground to Lilly in the obesity space, maintaining leadership in the diabetes space, and then improving execution. And that's something that's going to be key ahead of the CagriSema launch, as well as the launch for its oral GLP-1 in obesity, particularly given, CagriSema perhaps isn't as differentiated as we had hoped for, and then the oral GLP-1 profile perhaps trails that of Lilly's.
In a call with journalists, though, the new CEO said he's planning to review the company's cost base without setting specific targets and metrics. So could this indicate that Novo is preparing for a period of slower growth after the initial surge in demand of especially the blockbuster Wegovy drug?
I think it'll be hard to slash R&D, to be honest. And they would need to, continue marketing, continue to do DTC, in order to, in order to compete with Lilly. They're obviously heavily investing into CapEx at the moment, but there is probably some operating leverage in there, to provide some sort of relief. I mean, the company's got a margin of about 45%, which is at the top end for large pharma.
Hey, Mike, is there any reason to believe that maybe the marketplace has been overestimating the size of this obesity drug market?
I think there's always a risk with an indication this size. When you look at the market potential, in the US alone, it's 140 million patients, which is the target population.
I think that's one-third of our population, man.
Yeah, there is a risk that, perhaps consensus did get ahead of itself. But the difficulty here is, you have, huge runway of patients. There's obviously limited supply. So it's difficult to know kind of, how quickly that supply can come on board. Now, Novo gives guidance around, their growth prospects, where they think sales, et cetera, are going to go, but they keep, they don't necessarily quantify, the cadence of supply and how quickly that's going to come online. So that kind of makes forecasting quite difficult. And obviously they don't want to give that information because it's competitive information, and they don't want, Lilly to know about it either.